9/11 politics. The Bush team tries to limit political damage from the 9/11 hearings, while the president says his predecessor has plenty to answer for. The boy bomber. Who is this Palestinian teenager in blue jeans? A suicide bomber who changed his mind. The story behind the extraordinary pictures. Sky high. Gas prices setting new records. Why now, and why are prices so different state to state? And against all odds, 2 Americans, one incredible voyage to conquer the world's longest river.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Substituting tonight and reporting from Washington, Brian Williams.
Good evening. This has been a time of high emotion in this capital city, especially for the families of 9/11 victims, here to watch and listen as the government commission looks into what the White House knew about the threat from Al-Qaeda and when they knew it under 2 U.S. presidents. On a day when a new Al-Qaeda tape may have surfaced, this week's hearings have exposed raw nerves, and while there is plenty of blame to go around, the president currently in power is under fire tonight. We begin here in Washington this evening with NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
The White House today tried to limit any political damage from the testimony of former counterterror chief Richard Clarke. In New Hampshire, the president suggested Bill Clinton has more to explain than he does for 9/11.
The commission determined to look at the 8 months of my administration and the 8 years of the previous administration.
Today, the Bush team unleashed its biggest guns.
I can't find anybody who knows me who thinks that I go around insisting to the president that he do something like that.
Do you agree with Mr. Clarke's characterization?
No, I do not. Terrorism was an important issue for President Bush.
The commission, 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans, was supposed to stay out of election year politics. On day 1, this from a Democrat.
We have a book issued by Richard Clarke, which is a blistering attack on the Bush administration.
By day 2, Republican members were trying to undermine Clarke.
I'd hate to see you become totally shoved to one side during a presidential campaign as an active partisan selling a book.
The sniping was painful for some 9/11 family members hoping for answers. Dave McCourt lost his wife and 4-year-old daughter.
There was a tendency, if there was a Democrat asking the question, to sort of demonize and go after that individual. And Republicans would do the same thing.
Americans were paying attention. A new Pew poll tonight shows that 4 in 10 Americans said they'd heard a lot about Clarke's claim that the president ignored pre-9/11 warnings. Only 10% had not heard about Clarke's criticisms. The risk for George Bush, a central campaign theme as seen in his first television advertisement, is his ability to protect America. The commission's findings could undercut that claim if Americans become persuaded that this White House didn't do all it could to prevent 9/11. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
The high-profile testimony of Richard Clarke here on Capitol Hill, along with that new high-profile book, have to some degree or another damaged the Bush White House, which is tonight considering another appearance by the president's national security advisor before the 9/11 Commission. NBC's David Gregory with us from the White House tonight with more. David, good evening.
Good evening to you, Brian. And with this letter that's just been released, Dr. Rice is officially requesting a second private meeting with the 9/11 Commission to, as the letter says, refute accusations that the administration did not do enough to prevent the September 11th attacks. But again, she is refusing to testify under oath, saying the distinction is important to protect her confidential counsel to the president.
Executive Office Building in Washington.
Rice was eager to refute Richard Clarke's testimony during a live interview on NBC Nightly News last night, and now she wants to appear before the committee once again. The fear, say administration officials, that Clarke's testimony will dominate the commission's final report due out later this year in the heat of the campaign. So why not testify under oath? White House counsel Alberto Gonzales says it's unnecessary because administration officials are duty-bound to tell the truth anyway.
This is not a question about hiding information or not providing information. Quite the contrary. You know, we've provided unprecedented access.
But despite that defense, tonight sources familiar with the 9/11 Commission's thinking say the panel may actually push to get Dr. Rice under oath, particularly if she wants to contradict another witness. Brian?
David Gregory across town at the White House tonight. Thanks. While all this was happening here in Washington, the Arab television channel Al Jazeera was broadcasting a new audio tape said to be the voice of Ayman al-Zawahiri, the number 2 man in Al-Qaeda. It was just last week that he was thought to be surrounded by Pakistani troops along the border with Afghanistan. The voice on the tape calls Pakistan's President Musharraf a traitor and urges every Muslim in Pakistan to overthrow his government. U.S. officials have not yet authenticated that the voice on the tape is in fact that of al-Zawahiri. Back to politics now in the race for president. Democrat John Kerry is just coming off some downtime, off the campaign trail, off the airwaves, and slipping in some polls. Tonight, Kerry is back, and in this already negative race, that means on the attack. Our report tonight from NBC's Kelly O'Donnell.
Rested and ready. It's a beautiful day. John Kerry back from a week-long vacation. The battery of his own attack machine recharged.
Are you ready to go out and send George Bush back to Crawford, Texas?
Today, former rival Howard Dean officially endorsed Kerry.
Kerry, Kerry!
And with that comes his razor-sharp tongue. Today, Dean gleefully weighed in where Kerry himself has yet to go.
You know, I got such a kick out of seeing the president huff and puff and get all indignant over the testimony of Richard Clark this week.
Kerry needed a change of subject. Slipping in some polls, Team Bush has been hitting hard, and Kerry made it easier. His awkward answer fit right into a recent Bush ad.
I actually did vote for the $87 billion before I voted against it.
I think Senator Kerry must be thrilled that now that he's coming back from vacation, it's the president who is under the microscope.
Adding new scrutiny, the Kerry campaign lashed out at the president's taste in humor when he made fun of himself at a journalist dinner last night.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
Today in a statement, Kerry's campaign chided the president, claiming Bush turned White House credibility into a joke. On offense, the president again seeking to define Kerry in a new ad.
John Kerry's economic record? Troubling.
Tonight, while the president holds a fundraiser in Kerry's very own Boston neighborhood, Senator Kerry is sharing the stage here tonight with former Presidents Clinton and Carter to raise money in what Democrats call a commitment to party unity. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News, Washington.
And a more surprising show of unity tonight, a photo unimaginable just a short time ago. Britain's Prime Minister Tony Blair shaking hands with Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi, welcoming him back into the fold in the fight against terror. Britain says the war in Iraq persuaded Gaddafi to destroy his weapons of mass destruction, but critics say Gaddafi's decision is more about prospects for lucrative trade contracts than anything else. He is 16 years old, and he almost became the latest suicide bomber in the Middle East. Instead, he stopped short. The pictures of what happened, of this teenage boy wired to go off, are dramatic. His story says a lot about what has become a culture of terrorism across an entire region. Here tonight is NBC's Martin Fletcher.
A Palestinian mother's nightmare. Her son went to school yesterday morning and didn't come home. 16-year-old Hussam Abdul was next seen at an Israeli roadblock with a bomb tied to his chest. Soldiers sent a robot to help the boy cut it off and detonated it. Hussam told soldiers someone promised him $23 and 72 virgins in paradise to blow himself up next to Israeli soldiers.
If the Israelis had not found him, now your son could be dead. The Israelis could be coming here to destroy your home.
Who did this, she cries. It is forbidden to use children like this. A woman said, quiet, you should be proud. Another told her, oh, shut up. Many Palestinians claim they want to be martyrs, but now they're torn, most horrified that children are given bombs. At Hussam's school today, schoolmates chant his nickname. And his friend Jihad says evil people used him, exploited him, because he was ashamed of being short. Jihad asked, who can give a boy a bomb? So we try to find out. Al-Aqsa Brigades, the militants loyal to Yasser Arafat, at first claimed responsibility. We went deep into the Balata refugee camp in Nablus, trying to find the man who gave the boy the bomb. Not surprisingly, we couldn't. But we did find Abu Hamdan, head of the camp's Al-Aqsa brigades.
Did you give the boy the bomb, yes or no?
No.
Who was responsible?
Not me. There are other Al-Aqsa cells. Maybe weak and irresponsible people sent the boy. But I think Israel did it. Israel gave him the bomb.
So we asked the Israeli army.
There's no truth to it.
But why did Hassan want to be a suicide bomber? Because people don't like me, he said. He is my baby, his mother cries, and she says, they abuse the innocence of a child. This is not the way to build a Palestinian state. Martin Fletcher, NBC News, Nablus, the West Bank.
Up next, as we continue from Washington tonight, NBC News in depth. Record gas prices across the country. What's behind it and why do they differ depending on where you live? And later, the summer forecast for this nation's national parks. Why some think a budget-cutting plan is no picnic. NBC News in depth tonight. The staggering cost of a full tank, record gas prices this week, and fed-up drivers wondering what's behind these big increases. NBC's Robert Hager has some answers tonight in depth.
Gas prices are at a new all-time record high for the third day in a row. Over $1.74 a gallon for regular on average, more than $2 in some areas. There are lots of reasons, speculation, even hysteria in the marketplace, higher prices for crude oil and for refining, and frankly, higher profits as well. To understand all this, let's look at what normally makes up the cost of a gallon of gasoline. In normal times, crude would account for about 65 cents of the cost. Refining 20 cents, distribution and marketing 15 cents, tax 40 cents, and maybe 10 cents for the gas station. A total of about $1.50 a gallon normally. So what's pushing it so much higher now and increasingly creating huge disparities state to state? Well, instead of 65 cents on the gallon, crude has been costing 88 cents lately on fears of OPEC and tight supplies, though crude prices did finally ease some today. As for refining, instead of costing 20 cents on the gallon, in places like California, that's up to almost 50 cents because of strict rules about switching to summer blends to prevent pollution. Drive around California today, and you'll see prices like this. Oil analyst John Kilduff.
Its own pollution rules are stricter than the federal government's, and therefore we can't ship gasoline from other parts of the country to meet the demands in California. They've isolated themselves, they've isolated their supply, so therefore they pay for that.
By contrast, drive around North Carolina, where rules about blends aren't as tough and taxes are low, and you'll see prices like this.
They use a conventional grade of gasoline that's readily available throughout the region, and they also don't tax motorists as heavily as some other states do, which all combines to give them usually the lowest price at the pump.
But analysts say with the market frenetic and industry eager to profit, it's unclear whether today's break in the price of crude might temporarily stop the steady increase at the pump. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Up next, are there cuts coming in the national parks? And later, American daredevils and the quest to run a river that no one has managed to conquer yet. Here on Capitol Hill today, the Senate joined the House voting to make it a separate crime to harm a fetus during commission of a violent federal offense. The bill gives a fetus the same legal rights as its mother from the point of conception, a major victory for social conservatives. Abortion rights supporters say the bill sets a precedent that could be used in future legal challenges to abortion. The president says he will sign the bill. Just as American families sit down to plan summer vacations to this nation's national parks, the Park Service is out with some cuts under consideration. Our report tonight from NBC's Chip Reed.
The beauty of nature is expected to draw record numbers of Americans to the national parks this summer. But with budgets tight, the parks were looking for ways to save money that could have disappointed many visitors. A recent Park Service memorandum made these suggestions. Close the visitor center on all federal holidays, close the park every Sunday and Monday, and eliminate all guided ranger tours. To soften the blow, the memo recommends calling these changes service level adjustments, not budget cuts. Today, National Park Service Director Fran Minella came under fire from a congressional committee for her handling of the parks.
We have to deal with this, and we can't let these parks fall apart. That's what we're worried about.
We've got backlog maintenance coming out of our ears, and we can't keep building new facilities when we're not taking care of the old ones.
I heard you loud and clear, and we are taking steps right now.
Minella blamed much of the budget squeeze on security expenses since 9/11 and the costs of Hurricane Isabel and a bad fire season. But members of both parties said they suspect bad management, criticizing $94 million for travel over 2 years, including hundreds of trips overseas.
We are now going to suspend all future foreign travel, effective immediately today.
And she agreed to keep parks open on weekends and holidays. But Rob Arnberger, former superintendent of Grand Canyon National Park, says the parks will continue to deteriorate as long as they are underfunded by the Bush administration.
This administration has, in my view, exercised a deliberate starvation of the parks.
But Park Service officials insist their budget is adequate, that by rearranging priorities and doing more with less, they'll be ready when millions arrive this summer. Chip Reed, NBC News, Great Falls National Park, Maryland.
On Wall Street today, investors were cheered by final confirmation the nation's gross domestic product grew at a healthy 4.1% in the fourth quarter of last year, and so stocks were sharply higher. The Dow finished up more than 170 points. NASDAQ was up almost 58, a 3% gain on the day. An update tonight on where the jobs are. Despite the generally bleak employment market, there are some bright spots. NBC's Ann Thompson, in conjunction with the Wall Street Journal tonight, reports on one area where help is wanted.
Taking care of the nation's sick has created a healthy job market. Unlike much of the rest of the economy, the healthcare industry is adding jobs.
Your pulse is fine.
234,000 during the past year, and no end in sight. With baby boomers aging and demanding more and more services, this, economists say, is a growth industry.
This is an open area for patients or their families to come in and interact with staff.
Trying to keep up, Bill Pawanda, vice president of Griffin Hospital in Derby, Connecticut.
We've seen a 25% increase in admissions and a 50% increase in outpatient business over the past 4 years, which has prompted hiring on our part.
Today, Pawanda is trying to fill 30 positions: nurses, physical therapists, and lab technicians. All areas with shortages. Shortages that give workers like staff pharmacist Mary Tarashuk plenty of options.
I have headhunters, quite honestly, calling me weekly with positions within Connecticut and also within the country, nationwide.
And the positions available are not just the ones that require years of education and specialized degrees. They cover all skill levels and help ease the pain of job losses in other industries, such as manufacturing, in cities like Derby.
We also see high vacancy levels and trouble recruiting in areas like medical record coders, and a looming challenge, I think, is going to be in information services.
Today, healthcare spending makes up more than 15% of our economy, double what it did just 30 years ago, a growing need that buffers the industry from economic cycles.
It's not impervious to recessions. It weakened during the 2001 downturn, but it is as recession-proof an industry as there is.
An industry with jobs vital to the health of Americans and the health of the nation's economy. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Derby, Connecticut.
And we're back in a moment with the ultimate river ride. This morning in Greece, the reenactment of the ancient ritual lighting of the Olympic flame using the sun's rays and a concave mirror to create the flame, which is now off on a round-the-world journey, ending in Athens for the Summer Games come August. And while it is not an Olympic sport, a team of river rafters is attempting a feat with a very high degree of difficulty, negotiating the world's longest river from beginning to end, a harrowing trip, every inch of it on film. Here is NBC's Bob Fall.
The rapids they're facing aren't just treacherous, they're deadly. The terrain brutal, the sun scorching 120 degrees. They've been attacked by giant crocodiles and shot at in the Sudan.
I thought, oh, this could be it.
But since Christmas Day 2003, 2 Americans in 1 kayak and 2 rafts have embarked on a 3,250-mile adventure down the Blue Nile. From its headwaters in Ethiopia to where it empties into the Mediterranean in Egypt. They travel with a small support staff, sometimes even armed guards. But no one has ever attempted this journey before, and the odds against them are staggering.
The Blue Nile, particularly, is really the Mount Everest of rivers. It is something that has eluded explorers and adventurers for decades, for centuries.
We get completely sprayed.
8,500 miles and 11 time zones away in California. Acclaimed filmmaker Greg McGillivray monitors their communications and the 30 hours of film they're shooting for an IMAX production.
Try to get a shot of, in IMAX, of the sandstorm if you can.
If we get another one?
Yeah.
It is a classic adventure, he says, not just because of where they're going, but what they're doing, setting new limits.
We all get a little bit of a vicarious thrill when we see someone succeed in climbing Everest or tackle a first like this one, going all the way down the Nile.
The worst part, the deadly white water, irate hippos, blinding sandstorms, all that's behind them now. With roughly 1,000 miles left to go, they are fatigued. But geologist and hardcore adventurer Pasquale Scatoro, he's climbed Mount Everest 3 times, says there is an exhilaration here like no other.
The shores are full of little villages. It was the most beautiful setting I had ever seen. And I was thinking, wow, this is really nice. You know, I could do this for a long time.
Challenging the world's longest river and, so far, conquering it. Bob Faw, NBC News, Laguna Beach, California.
And that is Nightly News for this Thursday. I'm Brian Williams reporting tonight from Washington. We'll look for you tomorrow night back home in New York. Good night.